Welcome back to the Jungus Games playthrough for Terramara. At this point, we played through the first round of the game in a tutorial video where I also taught most of the rules, so if you missed that, you can find a link for it down below in the description or by clicking the eye up there in the corner. Just like before, I would like to ask that you please turn on the Klingon subtitles because I might make mistakes while we're playing through the rest of this game, and that lets me put corrections on the screen to make this as accurate as possible. Alright, let's jump back into the game. At this point, we are now starting the second out of 5 rounds in the game, and the green player gets to go first. Now, before they take any actions, they've decided they would actually like to turn their character card over. It's going to go from the young side to the experienced side, and now whenever they gain any amount of culture for an action, they will get 2 victory points as well. At this point, they can now take their turn, and they are going to place an explorer, and they've decided to put it right over here. That's going to get them 1 raw stone and 1 refined stone resource. And with these, they are now going to create another artifact. They've done more of this than anyone else at this point, and considering their canoe is right over here, they can afford to get this artifact created. That's going to take 2 of the refined stone and 1 of the metal. They do indeed have all of those right here, so now they have an ongoing discount of -1 metal bar whenever they create the tool type of artifact. With that done, we can now slide all of these over, and now the blue player can take their turn. After looking at their options, they're going to begin with their 1 chieftain, and they're going to place it right over here. That means they will get a level 1 worker, and this also means that no one else can go onto this spot for the remainder of the round. So they've effectively blocked the rest of us from gaining another worker. So that means they now have 2, and they cannot create an artifact, which means we can now take our first turn, and I think we want to start off with our chieftain as well. Now, the reason for this is because we can place it down here on this crossroads spot, which is a very powerful upgrade action. Now, we can do this because we have both of our caravans at or beyond this crossroads, and the green player also has that situation. So by putting this over here, we are stopping the green player from being able to do that. Now, right now, the green player is doing very well. They have an extra explorer, and they have a couple of those discount artifacts, so I think it's going to be good to try and hem them in wherever we can. So this means we can turn 2 raw resources into 3 of that type of refined good. Well, when we come down to our area, we have 3 of those options, and when we come out here to the artifacts, we can see with our canoe right over here, we can construct any one of these artifacts. Now the problem is that 3 out of the 4 of these require the refined stone, and that's the only type of raw resource that we cannot convert right now. This one over here needs 2 of the refined metal and 1 of the refined leather, and we could actually pull that off this turn. So I think let's go after this one. That means we're going to want to use this action space to refine our ore, so that means these will turn into metal, and then that action space lets us get an extra refined good of that type. Now after that, I think we should use 1 of our workers, and that will let us refine 1 of our livestock into leather. Once that is done, we can now finish out our turn by constructing this artifact. Once again, that requires 2 of the metal bars and 1 of the leather. Now, as soon as we do that, you'll notice this has an immediate effect and an ongoing effect. The top says we are going to gain military. This means that we will gain 1 military for every player above us on the track, plus 1. Now, this doesn't count anyone who is tied with us, so we can see there are 2 players with more military than us. And that means we will get 2 plus 1 or 3 military right now. This means we will go 1, 2, 3, and we've actually tied up here with the blue player. Next up, we can add this into our tableau. You'll see this is worth 2 points to us at the end of the game, and for the rest of the game, whenever any other player puts an explorer into a spot where we already have an explorer, then we will gain a military. Alright, that has finished out our turn, so we can now reset this row by drawing another artifact. And it is worth noting that now we are into the second level artifacts, the cost is greater. You'll notice all of the level 1 artifacts cost 3 of the refined resource, but this one right here costs 5 refined resources, and this one costs 4. Now this is also worth 8 victory points, but we are obviously going to have to be hoarding more of these refined resources to pull off creating these artifacts. Alright, our turn is done, which means the green player can go, and they're going to place an explorer. In this case, it looks like they simply want to gather 2 of the raw wood resource. They can add these right over here into their area, and now they cannot afford any artifacts, but the green player's canoe is well past this spot, which lets them reserve one. So in this case, they are going to reserve this one over here. This is a clothing style which they have a discount on, and they are starting to worry about falling behind on that military track. And this has an ongoing benefit of every time you have both of your caravans make it to a specific crossroad spot, you gain a military. So essentially, you get benefits for keeping your caravans together. They are obviously going to want to keep pushing that, and this also gives them a caravan move as well as one culture bonus, which gives them 2 victory points when they do that. Now, obviously, they have not completed this yet. We're just going to put it sideways over here to remember that they have this in their hand, and they will lose 5 points at the end of the game if they don't get this made, but I think that's very unlikely. At this point, we can now slide all of these over and reveal another level 2 artifact, and now the blue player can take their turn. Currently, they have all explorers, so they are going to send one out. When they come up to the board, the blue player is going to put their explorer right over here. They can do that because they have more military than the green player does, and remember they still have the young version of this character out, which means they do not lose a military when they go into an occupied spot. This means they are going to gather 2 of the raw wood resource. They can now add this into their area, but before they move on, they're going to use both of their workers, and that will refine 2 of the raw resources. So they're going to refine this wood and this stone, and now they're going to use this 2 refined wood and refined stone in order to craft this artifact right here. Now, this is going to be worth 3 points to them at the end of the game, and it says for the rest of the game, whenever they place their chieftain or an explorer down into a forest zone, which are these right over here, they will gain a bonus raw wood resource. And over here, if they send a chieftain or an explorer into a mountain zone over here, they will get a bonus raw ore resource. So far this game, the blue player has had trouble getting enough resources over here, so they're hoping this is going to help them out. Their turn is done, so we can now shift all of these artifacts down and then reveal a new one. And at this point, I figure I should probably talk about the artifacts out here just to make sure we all know what they do. Now over here we have a discount. That one seems pretty obvious. This one up here gives you a bonus military, and then for the rest of the game, whenever you want to go into an area with an opposing explorer, you can do that if you have the same amount of military. You do not have to have more. In fact, if you do that, you don't even lose a military as a penalty. Next up, this is an endgame point card that will give 5 points for every set of the 4 different types of artifacts that that player has. This one over here is going to give, it looks like, free livestock or free stone raw resources when a player goes to the plains or to the quarry locations out there on the map. Over here, this one says every time that player gains at least 1 culture, they can then do a raw to refined resource upgrade. Moving on, this one says you can immediately gain 1 military for every player who has more military than you, and then get 2 more, and then after that you get to do a free raid action. Moving on, this one says as soon as you take this artifact, you get 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the refined resources of your choice, depending on if you are in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th quadrant of the military track. Lastly, this one over here says that you can simply use this to turn a raw resource into a refined resource, but you'll notice that is a question mark to question mark, which means you can actually change what that resource becomes. All right, we can now take our next turn. And honestly, I really like the look of this card. This is the inverse to the one that the blue player just got, which gives the free raw resources. And I really don't see a problem with having raw resources, especially considering we have this, which lets us once per round use up to 3 of our raw or refined resource to turn those into caravan moves. So with that in mind, this means we need a refined metal and 2 refined wood, and you'll notice we currently have 1 refined metal and no wood, but we have 2 of the unrefined version. So let's go ahead and upgrade these with an explorer. And fortunately, there is a spot that does exactly that out here on the board. So let's go ahead and do that upgrade, and then we can immediately go ahead and craft this artifact. So we're going to get rid of our 2 refined wood and refined metal, and now we can put this in front of us, and we are going to get those benefits for placing on the left half of the board for the rest of the game. All right, our turn is done, so we can reveal a new artifact card, and this one costs 5 resources, it gives 6 points, and as soon as you craft this one, you can immediately pull back 1 of your explorers from any one of these terrain types. So that means you cannot pull that back from the homeland area, for instance. Now that means you could actually reuse that explorer, so this could be a really effective way of utilizing an explorer that you send really far out, and then you could pull it back and then use it again. Okay, the green player can go. And they've decided to send an explorer right up here, and they are simply going to take the military and culture. So that military is going to bring them right over here, but they are still below the rest of their opponents, although it's getting quite close. And then when they take a culture, They will then move their canoe over here, and they now have access to all but one of these cards, and they will immediately get 2 points for their experienced character card down here. All right, the blue player can now take their turn. And they've decided they want to go to the same place the green player just went, and in this case, they are going to take the 2 caravan moves. Now, when they look over here, they could head over to the left to try and get some more resources, but they like the idea of having access to these crossroad actions over here in the future, of course, so they're just going to move each one of their caravans once, so they have now both reached this crossroad spot, which means if they want to, they could activate this in the future. Of course, it's blocked off with a chieftain now, but that's now an option for all of the players. Well, it's now our turn, and I think we should just try to get a lot of resources. Let's go ahead and place over here in this case. Obviously, the current row right here is pretty full up, and we could go onto a spot with the green player or the red player if we wanted to, but we could also go up here. Now that is, I guess, 1 row up, which means we won't gain access to this explorer in the next round, but we will have hypothetically effectively used that explorer already by going there in this round. Now, by going over here, we will get 3 of the raw stone resource, plus 1 for the artifact that we have, so that's 4 raw resources, plus we will also get 1 culture bump. Now, that does mean that we are going to have to lose a military, unfortunately, because this is occupied already by the neutral player, but I think this is going to be worth it. This means we're now back to being tied with the green player. We can then take a culture, which means now for the rest of the game, we can optionally reserve a card instead of crafting it, as long as, of course, we don't already have a reserved card. And then most importantly, we get 4 of the raw stone resource. At this point, the last thing we could do is craft or reserve an artifact, and these 4 are our options, and honestly, nothing really jumps out to me as something we absolutely have to reserve, so I think let's pass on that for now, which means the green player can go. And it looks like they're going to send an explorer out 1 row in the future, and this spot will get them 2 of the raw livestock. With that, they are now done with their turn, so the blue player can go. And they're simply going to head right over here where the neutral red player is. Now this spot is going to give them 1 of the refined metal. They will also get a single of the raw ore, and they will get another one because of that artifact bonus over here in the mountains. So they can add these resources right over here. And now it's time for us to go, and I think let's take the starting player card. We can do that by placing right over here. And then we can take this card, and this is going to give us 1 caravan movement. Then the second player for the next round will get nothing, and the third player for the next round will get 1 culture. So that is going to be the blue player going up on the river track. So we'll take 1 plus 1 bonus caravan moves, so that's 2 total. And I think we should move the caravan that's farthest back, and we can go 1, 2. Obviously, we could head down there, which would be a little bit faster, but if we go over here, we can get rid of any raw resource and get 4 victory points for it, and I think that's going to be worth it to us. So let's get rid of 1 of the raw stone resources, and we'll get 4 points. Alright, the green player can take their last action of the round, and they've decided to send their chieftain right over here. Remember, the military value of an opposing explorer in a spot does not matter when you send a chieftain, so that lets them upgrade 2 of their wood into lumber, which they are ready to do. Alright, the blue player can take their last action, and they've decided to do a raid. Now you'll notice this would normally cost them a military, but again, their character means that they don't have to lose that. And now we can look to see the blue player is currently in the 2nd tier. Now that means everyone in the 1st tier is going to have to give them 1 out of their 4 resources. When we come down here, we have exactly 4 resources, which is a bit of a bummer, because if we had spent our resources on the last turn using this card, then we would have had less than 4, and you always round in the favor of the person who is being attacked, so we would not have had to give them anything. But we decided to wait on that, so it looks like that is our fault. We're just going to give them a raw stone resource, and then over here, the green player is definitely not going to give a refined resource. They're going to give, it looks like, 1 of these livestock. So overall, the blue player could have maybe gotten some more refined resources by going to a different spot on the board, but of course they still got 2 resources and denied stuff from their opponents, which is obviously in their favor. Alright, we can now take our turn, and we're definitely going to do this action before the end of it. And when we consider all of the current spots are pretty full up, I think let's head 1 row out into the wilderness. Now in this case, let's go right over here. That will give us 1 of the refined leather resource, and we will get a bonus livestock just for going over here in the prairie because of our artifact. Now after that, we will get to turn 2 of our livestock over into leather, and we now happen to have 2 livestock. So we can flip both of these over, and we have a lot of leather. Now, I'm not entirely sure what we need all of this leather for. There are a decent number of the upcoming artifacts that do require it, so I'm not gunning for any of them in particular right now, but I think we're going to be happy to have this. Now, at this point, I think it's time to go ahead and use this. Now, we can discard up to 3 of our resources, and we have 2 of the raw resources right now, so I don't think we're going to discard 3, but that's fine. We can still get some extras because we get +1 whenever we get at least 1 caravan move. Well, when we look out to the map, I think we only want to move twice. The reason for that is because once we become experienced with our character, we will get 2 points for every one of the crossroads that we pass through. So if we just move twice on this turn, we will only go through 1 crossroads, which will leave the other crossroads available for us to get lots of points for when we start discarding more of those resources in the subsequent rounds in the game. So in this case, let's just discard 1 of our resources. We get a bonus 1, of course, so that means we can now go 1, 2, and that is going to give us 1 of the refined stone resources, and that'll get us a culture. Now, we are obviously not moving this caravan yet because once this flips over at the end of this round, we want to move this over here and plant a flag over here to get points for how far we go down here on this track. So we can add this refined resource right over here and then get 1 culture, and we are just 1, 2, 3 culture away from getting another explorer, which is also something we certainly want to work towards. At this point, our turn is just about over, and I think let's reserve a card. We know at the start of the next round, all of the level 1 artifacts cards will be discarded. Currently, that's just these 3 here. You may have noticed that these have a wooden border, and the level 2 ones have this kind of green foliage border here, so it's easier to tell. Now, I think let's go ahead and reserve this one. We already have 1 refined stone. We have another raw stone over here. And in fact, before we end our turn, I just realized we have a worker we haven't used yet. So let's actually use that worker and then refine the stone. And we are now just 1 refined stone away from completing this in the next round. Having a discount on the pottery type of artifact for the rest of the game does seem good, and it's worth 3 points. So we are going to reserve this one before it gets discarded. And now our turn is done, so we have to shift all of these over. Let's see what the next one of these artifacts is. It is a 5 resource cost. It's 6 points, and you immediately get 2 caravan bumps and 2 bumps on the military track. All right, all players are done with their actions, which means this round is coming to an end. The first thing we do is clear off all of the clan members from the current round and earlier. So that means we can, of course, remove this neutral pawn. And we can now see that in the next round, we are only going to have 2 explorers currently. The green player has 4 and the blue player has 4. Now, hopefully we can get some more culture to unlock this next one over here, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull that off in the next round. So I think we're going to have a shorter round than our opponents, although we have a ton of these refined resources over here. So hopefully our fewer turns can be really impactful. All right, the next thing we can do is flip over these tiles right here. This one is an outpost, which will give 2, 5, or 10 points if you get to the 1, 2, or 3 triangle spot over there on the caravan track. Over here, we have this new crossroad spot, and you simply get 1 culture, 1 caravan move, and you also get 1 military when you activate this. Of course, you can only activate this caravan if you have both of your caravans over this crossroad spot. Currently, that is just us, so we essentially have that on lockdown for at least the first turn at this point. Next up, all players can reset their workers and used cards, although I just realized the green player did forget to use this worker. They certainly were planning on it, that's just me having a brain fart, so let's just do that. They were going to be upgrading this livestock into a leather. Sorry about that. So now we can refresh all of these cards and these workers. And then we can finish the round by moving this marker over to the 3 spot. At this point, we are starting the 3rd round off, and the first thing we have to do is shuffle up these 4 cards to see how much military the neutral red player gets. In this case, it looks like they're going to gain 3 military, so that's a lot more than last time. This means that they're going to go from here, going 1, 2, 3, and they actually have more than both us and the green player. With that done, we can shift this right over here, and now this icon means we have to discard all of the level 1 artifacts from this row. At this point, it looks like only 2 of them ever got reserved or crafted. So now we can shift all of these over and reveal 2 more of the level 2 artifacts. The first one of these is this one. It's an 8-point artifact, and for the rest of the game, whenever you craft an artifact using lumber, you'll get 1 point per lumber spent. We of course have to draw 1 more card, and this one gives 4 points at the end of the game. You immediately gain 2 military when this is crafted, and once per round you can spend a military to get 3 points. Now remember, way back in the beginning of the game, I said that this character allows the blue player not to lose military unless they are doing a trade. So if the blue player does get this, they would have to lose the military to get the points out of it. All right, we can now start the third round of the game off, and we are the starting player. Now, before we take any moves, I think it's time to become a little bit more experienced. Our young character is going to flip over, and now whenever any of our caravans reach a crossroad spot, we are going to get 2 victory points. Obviously, we're not going to be quite as fast going down the road, but so far we are already quite a bit ahead of our opponent, so I think it's time to get some points. We can now make our first placement, and I think we should just put this right over here. This spot gives us 1 military and 3 of the raw or resource, and we do want raw resources to throw away to get more caravan movement by using the artifact card that we have. Also, if we look out here, this is the current row, and there were only 2 empty spots on that row already. That's because we already came over here earlier, so even though our opponents have a lot more of these clan members than we do, they are going to have to push them out farther than we are, so it's likely next round we're going to have a lot more than they will. Either way, I think this is a good placement for us. So let's take a military, which means we're actually tying everyone but the green player. The blue player got all the way up here in the first round, and they haven't moved since. So we can add these into our area, and I think we're done with our turn. There are no artifacts we can build, and we've already reserved this one. We can't actually get this one made until we get another one of the refined stone, and it looks like that is not something we decided to do this first turn. With our turn done, the green player can go, and they're going to start with an explorer. And they've decided they want another worker. Now we can see over here in the second round, you actually get a level 2 worker, and when you use these, you can refine up to 2 raw resources into the refined version. We can see they already had a level 1 worker, and they're going to use that one right now to turn this raw stone into refined stone, and they're now going to end their turn by creating this artifact that they've had reserved for a little bit. Now, this is the clothing style, so they have a discount of 1 leather. So this is only going to cost a leather and a refined stone. They have both of those things now, and we can see they can first get a culture, and then they get 1 movement on the caravan. And now whenever their lagging caravan gets to a new crossroads, they will gain a military. First things first, they will take a culture, and their character is going to give them 2 points. Now, once they get to this spot, they are going to get a refined leather back, and they're going to get a caravan movement. So that means combined between these two, they have 2 caravan movements to play with. And they've decided to go 1 and 2. So just like that, they do have both of their caravans at this crossroad at a minimum. So that is going to activate the card they just got, which means they gain 1 military, and we are all tied up on military. This also means that the green player could potentially go to this crossroads, so that's something we have to keep in mind for our next turn. Either way, it's now time for the blue player to go. After considering their options, they are going to simply place right over here. This spot is going to give them 2 of the raw wood resource, and then when they come back to their area, they will get another wood because they placed into a forest area. This means it's now our turn, and I think we should use our chieftain. And with it, we can place right here onto this crossroads. That way, we are stopping the green player from coming in and getting advantage of this really nice action. So we do get to do this now. This is going to give us 1 military. So surprisingly enough, we actually have the most military of anybody at the moment. And then we get 1 caravan move and 1 culture. Well, let's start by taking a culture, and then we get a bonus right here. Now, we are just 1 stone away from completing our reserved artifact. So let's go ahead and take a refined stone. And then we have 1 caravan move, and I think let's head over here to this outpost. That lets us put a flag over here, and hopefully we will get 10 points at the end of the game if we are able to get both of our caravans up to at least this crossroad. Now, obviously, we do not get any benefit to the caravan moves because we experienced our character, but we will get points once we start hitting these crossroads, and I think that's going to happen pretty soon here. That has finished out our placement, but now let's go ahead and craft this artifact that we reserved. This one is going to take 3 of the refined stone, and we have that. So now we get a discount of 1 less stone every time we try to do a pottery type artifact for the rest of the game. So we can now just put this right up here. And that has also given us 3 extra points at the end of the game. All right, it's now time for the green player to go. Well, after looking at their options, they're going to send this explorer out a little bit into the wilds. This is the row for the next round, and this spot right here will give them 1 raw stone and 2 refined stone resources. So they can add this over here into their area, and they have a lot of refined resources at this moment, but it looks like they are still not going to have enough to craft an artifact. That being said, the green player no longer has a reserved artifact, so they are going to go ahead and pick this one up. This one says they could return one of their explorers from any one of the basic types of terrain on the board, so they're going to keep this in reserve and try to play this later. So their turn is done, and we can reveal another artifact. This one is worth 5 points, and it immediately gives, it looks like, 2 caravan moves and 3 culture. That is certainly a really good way to shoot up this river track. Alright, the blue player can go now, and they're going to use their chieftain. And with it, they're going to head over to this crossroads. They can do that because both of their caravans are at that spot, just barely, and now they can upgrade 2 raw resources into 3 of the applicable refined type. After looking at their options, they're going to go with the ore. This means both of these will become upgraded, and then they will get another one right over here, and that means they now have 4 refined metal. At this point, they are now going to spend all 4 of this to pick up an artifact, and that's going to be this one here. This says they are going to get 1 military for every one above them on the track, plus 2, and then they get to do a free raid action. In this case, it looks like 1 person is ahead of them. That means the blue player is going to get 3 military, so they will go 1, 2, 3, and they will then raid all of their opponents. Unfortunately for the blue player, it looks like everyone is here in this area, so that means they are going to take 1 out of every 5 resources from their opponents. We, of course, get to choose what we can give, and we currently have 6, so that means we have to give up 1 resource, and we'll give them 1 ore, and then over here it looks like the green player also has 6, and they're going to give them some raw stone. It looks like this card also gives them 2 points at the end of the game, so it's not hugely impactful, but they have lots of resources in their area now. They have also successfully blocked this crossroad out from anyone else using it this turn with their chieftain. Blue can now finish their turn by refreshing this row, and the next artifact is this one. This is worth 8 points, and it gives them 1 point per leather that they spend on any artifacts for the rest of the game. Oops, before we move on, I just realized the blue player played into a forest area with that crossroads, so that means they should get another one of these wood resources. Alright, we have just 1 explorer left, and I think we want some more resources. In particular, I think we should go right here. This is a spot with the green player, and we do technically have more military than them. That means we can place over here, although we will lose 1 military, which drops us down. And then after that, we can pick up 2 of the refined stone, 1 of the raw stone, plus another raw stone because of the artifact we have that gives us bonuses for playing into the quarries. So we can add these right over here, and now what I think we should do is use this card. Let's get rid of 3 resources to do this, and in this case, I think we make stone a little bit better than we make the ore, so we can get rid of both of the stone and 1 ore, and we can now get 3 caravan movements. With this, we can go over here for 1, and as soon as we hit a crossroads, we are going to get 2 points. So we can take those from the supply. With the second one, we can head right over here, and now I think let's spend 1 raw resource in order to pick up 2 culture. In this case, we only have 1 raw resource, so we can get rid of this ore. And then 2 culture will bring our boat right over here, and we've just unlocked another explorer, so we will get 1 more turn this round. At this point, we've just done 2 of the caravan moves, though, so we can now go over here for our third, and that will get us 2 more victory points. So far, that is 4 points that we've received this round due to our experienced character right here, and I'm hoping we can move the caravan even more with our final explorer here, but we'll have to see what our options are once it becomes our turn again. With our placement over, we could buy or reserve one of these artifacts, but I don't think we're going to do either of those just yet. What we really want is this card right over here. Unfortunately, we are just barely not far enough on the culture track to reserve or craft it, so I'm hoping next turn to push this over once more to be able to get this done, because we do have the 3 leather and the 2 stone for it. So we'll just see if that's an option for ourselves later on this round, and now the green player can go. And they're going to place an explorer. And they've decided they simply want to come over here and pick up 3 of the raw livestock resource. So they can add these right over here, and then they're going to use their level 2 worker, and that will refine 2 of these into leather. Next up, we are really bummed to see that they are going to craft this artifact. We were just 1 culture away from making that work on our last turn, but they do indeed have the 2 leather that they need, because of course they have a 1 leather discount down here for this clothing type of artifact, and they have the 2 refined stone. So they have grabbed this right out from under us, and this is pretty darn great for the green player as well. First things first, they are going to take 3 culture, which will let them go 1, 2, 3, and remember, as long as they have gotten at least 1 culture with an action, they will get 2 points, so they can add this into their area, and this right here means, for the rest of the game, whenever they are crafting an artifact from their reserve, they will now get a -1 refined resource discount. It's also worth noting if they go one more step up here, they will get both of these bonuses, and once you are right here, any further culture that you gain for the rest of the game will simply turn into points directly. Alright, the green player's turn is done, so we can see a new artifact, and this one is worth 5 points, and it's pretty simple. You just get 3 caravan movement. Okay, it's now time for the blue player to go, and they've decided they want another worker. They do have more military than the green player does, and they still have not gone to the experienced version of their character, so that means they don't have to lose military. Once they go over here, they can now grab this level 2 worker right here, and then they've decided to use all 3 of these workers. This is a level 2, this is a 1, and this is a 1, so that is 4 upgrades they can do, and they're going to upgrade 4 of their lumber. After that, they're going to spend all of these to craft an artifact, and that's going to be this one right here. This is worth 6 points at the end of the game, and once per round, they can use this to turn any raw resource into any type of refined resource. With that, blue is done, so we can reset these artifact cards, and another one is here. This is worth 3 points, and it immediately gets you 3 military power, and at the end of the game, you will multiply the bonus you get for being high up on that military track. Again, that is 8, 5, and 2 points for first, second, and third, so that means if you have this and you are first, this would double that into 16 points. It seems clear that the blue player will probably try to get that made, but we'll have to see if they're able to pull that off later. Alright, let's now take what is definitely going to be our last turn of the round. And I think we should take advantage of the fact that no one has gone up here yet and gain 2 more movement with the caravans. This means we can move the rear caravan 2 times, and as soon as it reaches this spot right here, we are going to get 2 more points for hitting a crossroad. Next up, we can take a refined stone resource, and we can take a culture. This means we can head right over here, and we can now craft almost every one of the cards. This one still eludes us, and unfortunately, the green player nabbed the one that we really wanted to rocket us up on this culture track, but I think instead, we may as well just get this crafted. This is 3 stone, and it is also 2 of the leather, but remember, we actually have a discount for this type of card. We have to spend 1 less refined stone, so we can get this one made for 2 refined stone and 2 leather, and it says for the rest of the game, whenever we spend leather in order to create artifacts, we get 1 point per leather spent. So hopefully we can make that work. We certainly have the ability to make more of the livestock than the other players do because of this artifact card that we picked up earlier. So we can now add this into our area, and it is worth 8 points, which is also a decent amount. And we can now finish our turn by revealing another artifact card, and this one is similar to the other ones we've seen already. This one gives points for spending the refined stone. It's now the green player's turn, and they've decided to send their explorer pretty far out into the wilderness to this spot right here. Now, we are currently in this row right here, so that means this will not come back for another couple rounds, but remember, they actually have this card up their sleeve, which lets them pull back one of their explorers, so it's looking like they're probably planning on doing that. Now, this is, of course, still a fine play to do. It just means you would not have access to that explorer for a couple turns, but of course, the farther down you go, the more lucrative the benefits you get are, so it still might be worth it to lose an explorer for those turns. Either way, they now get to do 2 upgrades, and then they can take 3 refined resources of their choice. Unfortunately for them, they only have 1 out of the 2 upgrades available, but they will then also take 2 more of the leather resource and 1 of the refined stone. At this point, they are now going to get this artifact created. This is a cloth type, which means they have to spend 1 less of the leather right here. So that means this is 2 leather and 2 wood. But then they also pass that spot on the culture track, which gives them an additional discount when you are crafting something from your hand. So in this case, they've decided to spend 2 leather and just 1 of the wood. So they have made this for just 3 resources. This is going to be worth 6 points to them, and now they can pull back 1 of their explorers. Well, we're not surprised to see this one come back, and now the blue player can take their turn. After looking at their options, they're going to send this right up here, and they are going to take the 2 caravan bumps. They want to keep moving these along so they have access to more of these crossroad spots, so they're going to move both of these over straight down to this spot right here. With blue done, we would now take a turn, but we are out of our clan members, so now the green player can go, and they've decided to use this explorer, and they're going to head right over here. This spot will give them 2 of the refined metal and 1 of the ore, and that's going to pretty much finish out their turn. Now, they are going to reserve a card, especially considering they get discounts when they get those crafted, and this is the one they want to get reserved. Their turn is done, so we can now pull out another artifact, and this one gives you points for spending the refined metal bars. Blue is now up, and they've decided they don't want to be third player anymore, so they're going to head right over here. This means they can take this card and immediately get 1 caravan movement. So they can now move a caravan, but I just realized the last time they moved, they bypassed this spot entirely, and they were absolutely planning on putting a flag over here. So I'm just going to correct that. I'm playing all 3 characters, and I just forgot about that for a second. This has been their plan all along. So they're going to have put this right over here for their last move, and now they get 1 caravan movement, and with this, they are going to send this right back over here. Up next, we won't get anything because we will be the second player in the turn order, and that means the green player is going to get a culture. So that means they're going to go up once on the track, and they will get a bonus 2 points for that, which is a bit unfortunate. And then when we come up here, the green player can take advantage of both of these bonuses. They were likely going to get up here at any rate anyway, so the blue player isn't too worried about making this happen on their turn. Now this right here says they can spend 2 raw resources in order to get 5 points, and you are always allowed to spend refined resources in the place of raw resources because they're effectively a better version of that. Now in this case, they're going to get rid of 1 of this ore, and then after that, they're going to get rid of this refined stone. They can then discard these and get 5 points from the bank, and then this over here is going to give them a refined metal bar, and they will get 1 military. That military is going to put them in second place. And now the blue player is done. This means the green player can take the last action of the round. And they've decided to head over here. Once they land on that spot, they will get 1 more military and then 3 more of the raw ore resource. After that, they are going to go ahead and craft their reserved card. This would normally cost 4 leather, but they have a 1 discount for it being in their hand, and they have another discount for their clothing down here. That means they can get this made with just 2 leather, so things are going really well for the green player over here. This is going to give them 3 movement on the caravan track. And with these, they're going to first head over to this outpost. That lets them put a flag down right over here for 1. The next one is going to take this caravan over here. Once they arrive there, they're going to get rid of 1 of the ore they just picked up, and that will give them 4 more victory points. And now they have 1 more movement for their caravans, and they're going to move this one right over there. All right, the round is officially over, so we can go ahead and collect all of the clan members from this spot and up. And then it's time to flip over these tiles. So this outpost right here is going to give 2, 5, or 10 points if you have 2, 3, or 4 of the tool type of artifact. And then over here we have a new crossroads location. This one right here says you can upgrade as many of the raw resources as you want with this action. The next thing to do is to reset all of our once per round cards, and I never actually got around to using these workers over here. We didn't have any of the extra raw resources over there, so we can just write this. Over here, the green player can put these right like that, and I did intend for the blue player to use this one, so let's just use it right now. This lets them turn any of their raw resources into any type of the refined resource, and they've decided to turn a raw ore into a piece of refined leather. Now they can reset all of their workers and this card right here. Now the last thing we can do is move the round token over to the 4 spot, and we have now entered the 4th round of the game. Now what we have to do is take this deck of cards and shuffle it up to see how much military the red neutral player gains, and it's going to be 3 again. This means, unfortunately, we are getting left in the dust a little bit. And now the last thing we have to do is remove any of the level 2 artifacts that are currently on top of the deck. So in this case, it looks like there were just 2 of those. So now we're going to start seeing the much more expensive and powerful level 3 artifacts, and we can now start the 4th round of the game. Well, we can start things off with the blue player, and they've decided to go right up here with their explorer. This spot gives them 3 refined resources of their choice, and they can do 2 raw to refined upgrades. In addition to this, they are placing in a forest, so their artifact will give them 1 raw wood resource. So they can add this over here, and the 3 refined resources they want will all be metal. After that, they have 2 upgrades they can do. The first one will be turning this livestock into leather, and the second will be upgrading this wood right here. They've now finished out their placement, and at this point, they've decided to spend their 3 refined metal and their 2 leather, which is exactly what they need to craft this artifact. This will give them 2 caravan moves right now, as well as 2 military. So they're once again in first place on the military track. Next up, they can take 2 caravan moves, and they're going to go over here for 1 and spend 1 of their raw stone resource, and that is going to give them 4 points. And then with their other move, they're going to send this caravan over here. This lets them put a flag down onto this spot, so everyone is trying to score the outpost, which gives points for going down this caravan track. All right, the blue player is done with their turn, so we can shift these artifacts over and see the first level 3 artifact in the game. This one is worth 5 points. It needs 6 overall refined resources, and it says for the rest of the game you get a discount on all 4 types of refined resources every time you go to craft another artifact. All right, it's now time for our first turn, and I think we should start pretty simply by putting an explorer over here on this crossroad. We can go there because obviously both of our caravans are well past this spot over here, and this will give us 1 culture, 1 caravan move, and 1 strength. So we can start off by gaining a strength, and then we can take a culture, which brings our canoe over to this spot. This is going to give us another 1 of the caravan moves, and this will give us 1 of the refined leather resource. And now we get 2 caravan moves because of that bonus and the action. So let's go ahead and head over here for 1 move. That's going to give us 2 points for our character. And next up, let's move this over to this spot over here. Let's leave this back over there because I think at the end of this round, we probably want to send it over here and activate this outpost so that we can get points for the tool type of artifacts. We only have 1 so far, but if we plant a flag over here, then we are more motivated to get more of those crafted. And I think it makes sense just to leave this behind for the moment. Now, at this point, we can get rid of 1 of our refined resources to get 5 points, and I figure let's just get rid of that leather that we just got. So that will go back to the bank, and we will get 5 more points. At this point, our turn is done, and I don't think we want to actually reserve any cards at this moment. Remember, if we don't get that card crafted by the end of the game, we lose 5 points. So with that, we can now move over to the green player's first turn. And they've decided to send an explorer out into the wilderness, and they're going to put it right down over here. Now, it is worth reiterating that both this row and this row are unlocked for the 5th round of the game, so this one is not technically farther away than this row right here. Now, in this case, it looks like they just want to get some more resources. This spot is going to give them 1 of the refined stone and then 3 of the raw stone resource. So they can add these down into their area, and that's going to finish out their turn. This means it's now the blue player's turn, and they're going to head right over here with an explorer. They can do this because they have a lot more military than the green player does currently, and they still have not decided to go to the experience side of their character card, so they will still not lose any military for going to an occupied spot. This means they will get 2 of the refined metal resource, and then 1 of the raw ore resource, plus another 1 for the artifact that they have whenever they go to the mountains. So they can add these over here into their area. And then they're going to use this worker right here to refine 2 of their resources. In this case, they will refine a metal and a wood, and now they're going to spend all 3 metal and 2 wood, which will be enough for them to craft this artifact right here. This is worth 8 points at the end of the game, which is certainly quite a bit, and they will immediately get 1, 2, 3, or 4 different refined resources, depending on if they're in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th quadrant of that military track. As we can see up here, they are just barely in the 3rd quadrant, so that means they get 3 refined resources of their choice right now. Well, after looking over their options, they're going to take 2 refined metal back and 1 refined stone. They can now finish their turn by resetting this artifact row. The next one to come out is worth 7 points. This is a 6 resource artifact, and it immediately gets you 2 movement in the caravan track and 3 strength. Alright, we can now take our turn, and I think we want to use our chieftain. And the reason for that is because I think getting a bunch of livestock is going to be a good idea, and currently we are the weakest on the military track. So we can go over here to this spot, and now we can take 3 of the livestock plus 1 because we are placing in the prairie, and we have that artifact which gives us an extra livestock when we do go to this area. This means we just got 4 livestock, and I think that's going to finish out our turn. At this point, green can go, and they're going to put their explorer right over here. It looks like they want to be the starting player for the next round of the game, which will be the final round of the game. This means they will immediately get 1 movement on the caravan track, and they've decided to just take this caravan from behind and bring it up to here. Now, if you remember, every time they bring their back caravan up to a crossroad their first one already met, they will get a military. This means they are now tied with the red player on the track. And this means that we will be the 3rd player in the last round of the game, so as a benefit, we are going to get 1 culture. Well, at this point, the green player decides they do not want to leave all of these resources in their area. They know that is making them a prime target to be raided. So they're going to use this worker right here to refine two of their resources. It looks like that will be stone right over here. And then they're going to craft this card. That is going to cost all three of their stone and two of their metal. And now for the rest of the game, whenever they craft with metal, they will get 1 point for every metal they spend. Green's turn is done, so we can shift these over, and the next card is a 6-pointer. It's only 5 resources, but they're all stone, and this lets you immediately craft another artifact, but when you do that, you could use the applicable raw materials instead of the refined ones for that crafting action. Alright, the blue player can now go, and they've decided to use their chieftain, and they're going to send it up here. Once they get up to that spot, they've decided they're going to go ahead and take 2 caravan movement. And the way they're going to do that is by moving this caravan twice. Once they reach this spot, they will get a culture and they will get a refined stone resource. Now, it doesn't seem like this culture is going to do a lot for them, although they now can start reserving cards. They are way back here on the track. It would be nice, of course, for them to get 4 more to unlock another explorer, but we'll see if they have that option going forward. So they can add their refined stone right over here, and now they're going to use this worker, and that is going to refine this ore into metal, and at the end of their turn, they are going to spend 3 metal and the 2 stone, which is exactly what they need to craft this artifact. Now, this is the one that doubles the points they get for their standing on the military track. Currently, they are definitely in first place, and first place is 8 points. So this is potentially worth 8 points down here, plus 3 points for the card itself, and it will immediately give them 3 strength. Now we know that they're going to get bonus points from that outpost if they reach this spot by the end of the game, so gaining 3 strength is certainly going to help them with that quest. Okay, blue's turn is done, so we can reset the artifact row, and the next card is worth 3 points. It costs 5 resources overall, and it immediately gets you 4 strength and 2 refined resources of your choice. Alright, we can now take our turn. And I think we should send this explorer right over here. This is a quarry spot, which means we are going to get 1 extra raw stone resource because of our artifact card. And we will also get a refined stone, and then we can upgrade 1 raw to refined, so we'll just upgrade the one we just picked up. This means we can slide these both right over here, and I think we're done with our turn. Alright, it's time for the green player's final action of the round. And they've decided to head over to this crossroad spot. They certainly are eligible to because their caravans have reached this crossroads right over here, and this spot will give them a culture, a caravan move, and a strength. So they can start by taking that strength right over here, and then they will take a culture, but they are at the end of the track. That means they will get 1 point for that culture, and they will get 2 more points for gaining at least 1 culture. And finally, they will take a caravan move, and they're going to move this one over here. That is going to give them a refined stone resource and another culture. Well, just like before, that's going to give them 1 point for the culture and 2 more points for gaining at least 1 culture with this bump. The last thing green wants to do on their turn is use this worker, and they are simply going to upgrade this stone. They are not going to be able to craft any artifact, but they figure they should reserve one. When they look over their options, this is the one they've decided to reserve. Alright, the green player's turn is done, so we can reveal another level 3 artifact, and this one does not actually have an effect. This simply gives you 18 points, which is a huge amount, but it does cost 9 refined resources. Alright, blue can now take their turn, and it looks like they want to head out into the 5th round wilderness and activate this spot right here. Now, this can only be activated once per game, so they're the only player who gets to do this. They can now take both of these warriors, and they act just like the chieftain pawns, with the only exception being that they can now use these on a spot that they've already placed. Well, that's finished out their turn, so now we get to go. Now, I think what's most important to us is getting this artifact created. We already have the resources that we need for the stone and the leather over here. It might not be upgraded yet, but we have at least the raw. The problem is the wood, and wood is becoming a very scarce resource out here on the board. Now remember, every time you play, you're going to be using different ones of these level 1, 2, and 3 rows right here, and the way this worked out, and the fact that some of these fire tokens covered up a lot of the wood generating spots means wood is kind of a rare resource. So I think let's send this worker off to this location right here. That is going to give us 1 refined wood, and then we can upgrade 1 raw wood into refined, but the problem is we don't actually have any raw, and I'm not seeing a good way to get any, so I think we're still going to go with this. And then let's go ahead and reserve this artifact right here so that we can continue working on it without worrying about our opponents taking it from us. Now, if we get one more culture, then we will get a discount on our reserved artifact when it's crafted. So I think that is something we will try to do at some point in the near future so that we can get this completed with just 2 of the refined wood. All right, we can now finish out our turn, and the next artifact gives 6 points. It costs 5 of the metal, and it immediately gets you military equal to the number of players above you on the track, plus 3. Play now comes to the green player, but they are out of clan members to use, so now the blue player can go. And they've decided to send one of their warriors up to this spot, and now they're going to take 2 caravan moves. With these, they're going to move this caravan 2 spaces over here, which means they can put a flag down into this outpost, which is going to give points for the weapon types of artifacts that that player has crafted. All right, blue is done, which means we can now take our final act of the round. And I think we should head right over here. Once we go to that spot, we will get 1 refined leather, and then since we placed in the prairies, our artifact will give us 1 livestock. Next up, we can upgrade a livestock to leather, so we can just upgrade this one right here. And now when we come down over here, I think let's go ahead and use one of our workers to upgrade this livestock into leather, and then we can discard all 3 of these livestock in order to get 3 caravan moves. With these, we should start by going right over here, and we will immediately get 2 points for entering a crossroad for our character. Then we can head over here for our second one. That will give us a culture as well as a strength. That culture means we now get a 1 discount when we craft our reserved cards. And unfortunately, that strength still puts us in 4th place. At this point, we have 1 more caravan move, and let's just move this one down here to the end of the road. Now, this is not a crossroads, and the moment it enters this spot, we actually slide it right over here to the highest value location. That means we have just gotten 8 points for ourselves at the end of the game, and hopefully we will get these 5 points when we're able to get this caravan down over here. So far, our opponents are not that far behind this caravan, so it's possible they may rush over here, but I'm hopeful that this is going to work out for us. All right, it's now the blue player's turn, and they're going to send out this explorer, and they've decided to place this right over here. Now that's going to give them 1 refined metal, and then they're going to get a raw ore for going to this location because, of course, this is a mountain area, and that gives them a bonus from their artifact. Now they're just going to use this immediately and upgrade that into metal. And that's going to finish out their turn, but it looks like everyone else is done with their actions, so the blue player can go once again with their second warrior. As you remember from before, you have to send warriors to the current row or earlier, so they cannot send this over here as much as they'd like to. But unfortunately for us, it looks like they are going to do a raid. They will not lose a military because they are still on the young side of their character card, and now it looks like their token is right up here. Now everyone else is back here in the square shield spot, so that means we're going to have to give 1 out of every resources we have to the blue player. At this point, that is unfortunately awful for us because we have 8 resources and they are all refined. We weren't really playing around the potential raid coming in from the blue player, so unfortunately, I think we're going to have to go ahead and give them 1 of these and probably 1 of these right here. We're certainly not going to give them this wood plank. So that means they will take both of these resources from us, and then it looks like the green player has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they are just going to give the blue player 1 of their raw metal resource. Blue is now done with their placement, but they have a couple things they could do down here on their turn still. Over here, they are going to use this worker to turn this raw ore into a metal bar, and then they're going to use this card, which lets them turn a raw resource into any type of refined resource. In this case, they are going to take a wood and put that right over here, and now they are done with their turn. This means we are now coming to the end of the 4th round, and the first thing we have to do is collect all of the clan members from the current round and earlier out on the board. The next thing we can do is flip over these boards right here. So this outpost is going to give points for having 2, 3, or 4 of the tool type of artifact card. Over here, we can flip this board, and it is now going to give a crossroads spot that will give points depending on how far along you are on that military track. The next thing we have to do is reset all of our workers and all of the cards that we used this round. And now we can move the round marker over to the 5 spot, and we have just entered the 5th and final round of the game. Now the first thing we have to do is figure out just how much military the red dummy player is going to get. In this case, it looks like it's going to be 4. Wow, okay. It's definitely going to be hard to beat them, I think, in a race on that military track. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I suppose if the green player gets certain cards from the row, they could potentially vie for that. Remember, the neutral player will take up one of these spots up here. The blue player appears to have the first place spot relatively locked down for the moment, but we'll have to see how this pans out. The next thing we have to do is remove all of the level 2 artifacts from the row down here. Now again, those are the ones with this green foliage on the outside. You'll notice the level 3 ones have the much more ornate wood border. So all 4 of these can be removed, and now we can slide all of these down. Next up, we have to reveal 4 more of these level 3 artifacts. This one is a 6-pointer. It immediately gives 2 caravan bumps, 3 strength, and 1 culture. Moving on, this one lets you once per round activate it and get 2 refined resources. So that is a very powerful card. Next up, we have this one here. That one lets you immediately lose 4 of your military to get 4 different refined resources, which is also very strong. Also, this is 11 points at the end of the game. So especially if you are not vying for any endgame points on that military track, then getting rid of 4 to get resources seems like a great deal. Lastly, we can fill this spot in, and this is another one of those big cards. It's worth 18 points, but it does cost 9 of the refined resources. All right, the very last thing we have to do at the start of this round is flip the starting card over. So now when anyone goes to that spot in this last round of the game, they are simply going to have a choice of taking 2 caravan moves, 2 strength, or 2 culture. All right, it looks like the green player is the starting player for the round, and they're going to begin by placing their chieftain. Since we are now in the 5th round, that means this chieftain can go to any of these locations, because again, both of these rows are current for the 5th round. In this case, they're actually going to send this right over here. This is a very powerful spot, and of course, they do not have more military than the blue player, so they can go over here with their chieftain instead. This will let them take 3 of the refined resources, and they can then do 2 of the raw to refined conversions. Well, they're going to start with the conversion. You'll notice they only have 1 raw resource, so they can turn this over into a metal bar, and now they can grab 3 refined resources. In this case, they are going to take 2 leather and 1 wood, and now they're going to go ahead and craft this that was in their hand. They get a discount of 1 of the metal bars due to this artifact here, and then they have another discount because of the spot they're on the culture track, and they are building this from their hand. So in this case, they're just going to construct this with 2 metal bars and the 2 leather that they just picked up, so we can see that this will give them 3 strength and then 2 of the caravan moves. They can start with the strength, so they can go 1, 2, 3, and they've now tied up with the red neutral player. Next up, they have 2 caravan moves, and they're going to take this one and go 1, 2. Once they go over here, they can get rid of a raw resource to take 2 culture, 2 caravan moves, or 3 of the strength. And in this case, they're actually going to get rid of a refined stone. They don't have any of the raw resources right now, and that is going to give them 2 more caravan moves. They obviously have a flag down over here on the spot that will give them points for being farther along on this caravan track. So now they're going to take those 2 moves, and in this case, I think they're probably going to head over here for 1 and here for 2. After they cross through this spot, they will get 1 culture, and of course, they will get that 1 refined stone right back. As they have a couple times now, that 1 culture will turn into a point, and then of course they got at least 1 culture, so they will get 2 more points for their character. The last thing to note about the artifact that Green just crafted is they spent 2 metal in order to get it made, and they're going to get 1 of the victory points for each metal they spend. So that means they get 2 extra points for this. Alright, it's now the blue player's turn, and they have just 2 clan members to place in this final round of the game. Now before they do their first placement, they have decided to become experienced with their character. This gives them the ability to use this character once per round to get 2, 3, 4, or 5 points, depending on which part of the military track they're at. Alright, they can now take their turn, and they're going to start with this chieftain, and they're going to place it right over onto this spot where the neutral red player is. Now, at this point, the blue player can lose military because they finally made their character experienced, but since they're coming over here with the chieftain, that means they do not have to lose that military. Now, this is going to give them 4 caravan moves. At the start, they're going to move this one over here for 1, and then over here for 2, and that means they've put all 4 of their flags out onto the board. At this point, they have 2 more movements available, and they're going to take this one and go 1, 2. At this location, they can get rid of a raw resource, and they've decided to get rid of this refined resource because they don't have any raw, and with it, they're going to take 2 culture. When we come out to the map, that is going to get them right over here, which will give them 1 refined good of their choice, and in this case, they are going to take a wood. At this point, Blue has now decided they're going to spend 3 of their metal and 2 of their lumber, which will let them craft this artifact right here. You can see that matches the resources they needed, and this is going to give them 4 strength and then 2 more of the refined resources. Well, 4 strength is exactly what they needed to get to this 4 square box spot, so they can now fully get the points for that outpost. Next up, they are going to use their character card in order to get 5 points because they have made it to the end of that military track, so they can add this to their area. And then for the refined resources, they're going to take 2 lumber. Blue's turn is done, so we can shift all of these artifacts over, and the next one is worth 6 points. And for the rest of the game, when you have this, you get 2 points for putting one of your caravans at a crossroad. So that's actually the exact benefit that we have with our experienced character over here. Alright, it's now our turn, and in order to get this made, we need a stone and a wood. Now we can start off by getting some stone by sending our chieftain out to this spot right here. Now, this is a very lucrative spot for us because we're going to get 1 of the raw stone for going to a quarry due to our artifact card. Then we're going to get 3 more raw stone, and then we're also going to get some refined stone. So we can add this stuff back over here into our area, and I think let's just end our turn. I know this is a lot of resources we have at this point, and it's possible that one of our opponents could try to do a raid on us, but realistically, the blue player would be the only one to really wreck our plans, and they only have 1 character left. If they did a raid, I just don't see how that would actually benefit them for that last turn, and I think at this point we might have the least amount of points of anyone, so we're not necessarily a target. So all that being said, I think let's just try to skate by and hold onto these resources for the next turn. This means the green player is up, and they've decided to activate this special spot right over here. Now you can only do that if it is the 5th round, and if you meet the criteria. This one says you have to be at the double box spot on the military track. As you can see, the green player is just barely to that spot, so they can go over here. This will give them 1 upgrade and 2 of the refined resources of their choice. Well, it doesn't look like they have anything to upgrade. It's interesting, the way the board laid out for this playthrough, there's quite a scarcity of raw resources here at the end of the game. Now, they're just going to take 2 of the leather resources, and then they've decided to reserve this card right over here. Green's turn is done, so we can reveal another artifact, and this one is worth 10 points, and it immediately lets you turn 3 of any raw resource into 3 of any of the refined resources. Alright, the blue player can now take their turn. And with their last explorer, they're going to go to this crossroads spot. They have indeed gotten both of their caravans past this crossroads right here, and that's going to give them 5 points because they are in the last section of the military track. So they can add this into their area, and with that, they are done with their game. They have no more clan members. They never actually got this one over here. There was a way they could have been able to pick this one up on their turn, but they decided to do this instead. Now, they did not actually use this card or any of their workers because, again, there is a drought of the raw resources just because of the way the tiles laid out and mostly because of how these fire tokens went out on the board. When you look out right here, both of these spots had 3 raw resources underneath them. So if either one of these had been different, that's quite a bit more raw resources that could have been in the system for the game. Alright, it's now our turn, and what we really need is wood. So let's go ahead and use one of our 2 remaining clan members and activate our hut. We haven't used these huts in quite a few rounds, I think, and with this we can turn this raw stone into a raw piece of wood. Now we can use one of our workers right here to turn that into an upgraded piece of wood, and it's time for us to go ahead and craft this one at the end of our turn. Now, as I said before, this costs 3 wood, 3 stone, and 3 leather, but we get a discount of 1 because we are so far along on the culture track. So we can get rid of all 8 of these resources, and we just got 18 points for ourselves at the end of the game. Alright, it's now the green player's turn, and they've decided to place right over here. Now, they don't actually have any raw stone to upgrade, but on this location, they can get 1 of the stone. Now, once they have this in their area, they of course do have to lose 1 military, and I think for the first time in the game, we are going to gain a military because opponent came into one of our spots where we already had an explorer. So we can gain that military, although I don't think that's actually going to matter. And then the green player is going to craft this card at the end of their turn. You can see this costs 3 stone and 2 of the leather, and they don't have any of these discounts, but since they had this in their hand and they are all the way at the end of the culture track, they get a -1 discount on the resources they need for this. Now, in this case, they're going to go ahead and spend the leather, and they will spend 2 of the stone. That's going to get them 6 points, and if they're able to get to the crossroads with their caravans for the rest of the game, they will get 2 points for each of those. At this point, the blue player would go, but they are out of clan members, so they are done for the game, which means we can now take our turn, and I think we need to get a few more caravan bumps. When we look out to the map, we need 1, 2, 3 as a minimum to get this caravan all the way over here. Now, it would be nice to head over here instead and get 5 points, but that means we'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we currently have 3 resources. Now, we'd want to spend one of those to make this happen, so that means with our resources and this card right here, we could get 2 movement, so let's get 2 more movement with this explorer. Fortunately, we can make that happen way up here at the top of the board. This has been largely ignored this round so far. Now, up here, we can get 2 caravan moves, which will bring us over here and over there. Now, when we hit this crossroad, we will get 2 points, and then once we get to this spot, we have to discard one of the refined resources to get 5 more points. Fortunately, we have 1 more worker, so we could use that to refine the stone and then get rid of it. And remember, at the end of the game, each one of the refined resources is worth 1 point each, so getting rid of this for 5 points means we just gained 4 points, and I think that's going to be worth it. So we can add 5 points right over here, and now let's use this card and 2 of our resources to get 2 more caravan movement. This means we can go here for 1, and that will immediately get us 2 more points for our character, and with our last caravan move, we just barely made it to the end, and this means we were the first and second caravans to get to the end, so that is 5 more points to us at the end of the game. Alright, we are now done with our turn, so the green player can now go. In fact, they're the only ones with clan members left, and they have 2 of them, so they can take 2 turns in a row if they want. Well, with the first of these, they'll send their explorer out to this crossroad spot. That's going to give them 1 military, 1 caravan move, and 1 culture. The military will tie them up with the red player again. That culture will give them 1 point plus 2 more points for their character. And then with the caravan move, they'll take this one right over here, and of course they get 2 points for this card that they just crafted on the last round. That's finished this turn, so now the last turn of the game can be had by the green player again. And they've decided they want more caravan movement, so they can head right over here. They certainly have more military than us, so they're going to go down and we'll go up again because of our artifact card, although just like before, I don't think that's going to matter. And now the green player will take 2 more caravan moves. With these, they'll take this caravan and go 1, 2, and that means it made it all the way to the end to get them 3 points, and when it crossed through this crossroads, they were able to get 2 more points for that artifact card they crafted last turn. At this point, there are no more clan members left, so that means we have reached the end of the 5th round of the game, which means the game is now officially over. At this point, we can now start scoring up our final scores, and we can look over here for a cheat sheet. Now, everybody gets the points they've accrued throughout the game, and then they will get points that are listed over here on their cards. After that, they can score the points for the cards that are conditional, so let's take a look at all of those. And in fact, it looks like we don't have any of those, and the green player has none. But when we come over here, we can see the blue player has 2 of these. Now, this bottom one gives them 3 or 6 points if they are at the 3rd or 4th section of that military track. They did make it to the 4th, so this is 6 points for them. And then this one up here will double the amount of points they get for the placement they have on the military track. Well, I can tell you right now, they are in 1st place, which is worth 8 points. So that is going to double this, giving them 8 more points. So all told, they just got 14 more points from the conditional endgame points on their cards. Next up, we can score the military track. We can see the blue player is in 1st, so they will get 8 points. The red neutral player is in 2nd, so they would effectively get 5, although obviously we're not counting the red player's score. And the green player is in 3rd, so green will get 2 points. Now, it is worth noting if there was a tie over here, then the tied players would both get the amount of points for that position, but then the position below it might not be scored. For instance, if the green player had tied the red player, then they would both get the 5 points, and then if there had actually been a 3rd place player, that person would not get anything. So in this case, that means the green player did, I guess, lose 3 points by losing that 1 strength, but they gained 3 points by moving along that caravan track. Either way, let's now give everyone their points, which is 2 for green and 8 for blue. Moving on, we can now score the caravan track bonuses. We will get 8 plus 5 or 13 points, and the green player will get 3 points from this spot right here. Next up, we can score the outposts. As you can see, the blue player managed to go to every single one of them. We can start up here, and this will give them 10 points because they did indeed make it all the way to the triple square spot. Moving on, this outpost will give 2, 5, or 10 points, depending on if you have both of your caravans at the 1, 2, or 3 triangle spot. So we can look down here and see that we certainly made it past that, so we get 10 points. The green player got all the way over here with one caravan, but the other one just made it to the double triangle spot, so that means they'll get 5, and the blue player also made it just to the double triangle spot, so blue will get 5 as well. The next 2 outposts only have the blue player in them. This one gives 2, 5, or 10 points if you have 2, 3, or 4 of the weapon type of artifact, and down here it's 2, 5, or 10 points for 2, 3, or 4 of the tools type of artifact. When we come over to the blue player's area, they have 1, 2, 3 of the weapon style, so that is 5 points, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the tool style. Now that's at least 4, so that's going to be 10 points. So all told, they'll get 15 more points for those 2 outposts. The next thing we can do is check to see if anyone still has a card in reserve. If they did, they would lose 5 points, but it looks like nobody did that. The last thing we have to do is score our resources at the end of the game. Every raw resource is worth half a point, and every one of the refined resources is worth 1. Now it looks like we have no points for that. The green player is going to get 3 points, and the blue player will also get 3 points at the end of the game for the resources they ended the game with. Well, at this point, there's almost nothing left to do but to count these up, although I just realized that on our last turn of the game when we made this card, we did spend 3 of the leather, and every leather that we spent should have gotten us a point. Sorry, I missed that back then, but we can give ourselves the 3 points right here, and now when we add the points we have for our 6 cards and all of these points over here, we have an endgame score of 89. Alright, let's see how the green player did. Well, we can see they ended the game with 10 cards compared to the 6 of us, and when they add up all of their points, they have a final score of 94. Alright, let's now see how blue did. We can see they ended the game with 8 cards over here, so that's definitely less than the green player, but when they add up all of their points, they have an endgame score of 102. This means the blue player has won with that score of 102, green is in second with their 94, and we came in third with 89, and that completes one full 3-player game of Terramara. Well, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough. Obviously, I would have preferred it if we had done a little bit better in this game, but it was kind of interesting to see how close the scores were, considering we had some pretty different numbers of artifacts at the end of the game. We had 6, and we came in a close third. The green player had 10 of them, so that's like a couple away from being twice as many as we had, and they came in second, and the blue player had 8, and they were able to win the game. Now, the blue player did a much better job of utilizing the flags. They got a lot of scoring out of the outposts, whereas us as the yellow player and the green player only put down 1 flag. Now, obviously, we were very motivated to try and get as far down as we could, but I think it's possible that maybe we should have stopped a little bit to put some more of those down. But I think a bigger issue was that every single time you play Terramara, 2 of those outposts will be associated with one of the types of artifacts. So obviously, that's 2 different types of artifacts each game that will be slightly more incentivized. Now, the green player had tons of artifacts, but they were all for the wrong type of artifacts. Now, that has a big part to do with the fact that I was playing through this game as a somewhat tactical game, when this is actually definitely a strategy game. This is the type of game where at the beginning you should look out to see what all of the outposts are, see what all of the crossroads abilities are, and help that really motivate you as to what you're going to do. And when I was playing the game, I was really going after more low-hanging fruit when it came to the artifacts that we were all getting, and that meant that the blue player got a lot that scored really well for those outposts, and that did not really be the case for the green player and for us. So that was a little bit lucky for the blue player, if I'm being honest, because I was not really paying attention to those 2 outposts as I was playing through the vast majority of the game. And that's mostly because I am playing all 3 characters. That's not the type of thing that you should or really would ignore when you're playing this game, at least on a strategic level once you are familiar with everything that's going on. So I think at this point, that's going to wrap up all my thoughts on this one. As always, I'd like to thank everyone who's been supporting this channel, including all of these producer-level Patreon backers. If you too would like to directly support the channel and the creation of videos like this one, then please go to johngetsgames.com/support to see a variety of ways with which you could do that. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button down below as well as the subscribe button for the channel. Thanks for watching.